Chapter 8. Devon and I were sitting in my apartment one evening. We'd been watching programs on the screen together, but we'd run out of new shows. He'd already turned off the screen, but we hadn't moved to get up. We were snuggled together on the sofa, enjoying being close to each other too much to move. "Have you heard anything more from Bill about you going out of town?" Devon asked. I asked him about it a couple of days ago. He said he has a few leads but doesn't know where he's gonna send me yet. Why? I've been thinking about it. I would never ask you not to go, but at the same time, I'm having a hard time with the idea of it. I felt the tension in his body growing as I leaned against him. I was silent for a few seconds, trying to find the words. What makes it so difficult? It's not any one thing, it's a lot of them added together. Big part of it is this crap going on with Brandon, and I just can't get past the thought of another man going with you. Before I could speak, he continued. It's not that I don't trust you, I know I can. I think it's another symptom of our mating instinct. I just want to growl and rip off the head off any man who gets too close to you, especially if I'm not around. He took a deep breath and let it out, and I felt his body relaxing against mine. And on top of it all, there's the fact that we have a hard time staying apart for more than 48 hours. A recon trip, like he's suggesting, could take a week or two. I'm not sure about you, but after about day 4 apart, I'll be worthless for pretty much anything. Shit. I muttered, realizing he was right. Devon was quiet for a few minutes, letting things sink in. What do we do now? I asked. I have an idea, but I wanted to run it by you before I took it further. All right. I waited for him to explain. It's occurred to me that I can go to Bill and see about becoming an enforcer. That way, when he sends you out of town, and I have a feeling this won't be your only trip, I can go with you. I can be your enforcer. I like the idea of you going with me, a lot more than some stranger assigned to guard me. I don't understand, how are you going to qualify as an enforcer though? Gabriel once told me that he trained for nearly a year before he was able to make an enforcer team. It's true, it usually takes a lot of training and skill to qualify as an enforcer, but I have the advantage of 10 years in the army. A lot of the training I got there will help. That didn't occur to me. So you like the idea? It's all right with you if I go talk to the Aniquitos? Yeah, I like it. I'll talk to him if you think it would help. No. This is something I need to do. I can't chance it being seen as you speaking for me, even if we both know I'll qualify on my own. Okay, I guess I can understand that. It's a pack dominance thing, I get it. If I speak for you, it's the same as saying that I outrank you and that you acknowledge that. Exactly. You said you told Bill about our being potential mates, right? Yeah, the day he brought up my going out of town. I may need to use that if you don't mind. Go ahead. If you need to use it to keep us both from suffering during a separation, I have no problem with it. Thanks, I'll call him in the morning. He kissed the top of my head before dropping his lips to the side of my neck, nuzzling and nipping at my skin. Going out of town together might be fun. Even with pack business to deal with, I think we'll have plenty of time to enjoy ourselves. I agreed, tipping my head to expose more of my neck. I stopped by the clinic Friday morning, hoping Alexis wouldn't be busy. I wanted to talk to her about Bill's plans to send me out of town and Devon's wanting to go with me. Alexis had quickly become one of my best friends, and I valued her opinion and experience. I parked in the rear lot, went through the back gate, and headed for the converted guest house that served as the PAC's clinic. I hadn't even made it halfway down the path when a man stepped out of the shadows and approached me. He wasn't a big man, but there was something menacing about him. He looked nice enough, wearing a clean pair of jeans and his pressed button-down shirt. Maybe it was the look in his eye or the way he walked, like a predator stalking prey. I felt the wave of power emanating from him that told me he was Kitsune, but that wasn't all of it. I watched him warily as he got closer, sure he was up to something, but not sure what. My, what do we have here? He leered. I didn't have a response, so I ignored him and continued for the door. Don't ignore me, he snarled. In case you haven't learned yet, newbie, unless you best me or I submit to you, I outrank you. He sneered as he continued. That means you do what I say. If I say jump, you ask how high. Not really wanting trouble, I tried to talk him out of it. But if I do what you say, isn't that basically admitting that you're dominant to me? He stopped for a moment, thinking. Well, yeah. That's the point. Well then, we may have a problem. What problem? He seemed confused. I say jump, you do it. You see, that's the problem. What problem? He repeated. I braced myself, preparing for the fight I knew was coming. I don't take orders and I don't submit. Then I guess I'll just have to make you. He snarled, reaching for my arm, but I sidestepped and used one leg to sweep his foot out from under him. Landing on his ass only seemed to make him madder. He immediately stood up, this time determined to put me in my place. The problem with that was that I didn't see my place as submissive to him or pretty much anyone else. Sure, I'd do what Bill said, but that wasn't out of fear or even because he outranked me. I'd do it because I respected him as an elder and a friend. While Hank and Alexis might outrank me, they didn't issue orders. They would advise me or ask me to do something, but it generally made sense and I respected them for that. Issuing orders simple because you could is something bullies do, and this guy certainly seemed to qualify. As he made it to his feet, he snarled again. You're gonna pay for that. I didn't bother replying, I simply stepped closer and slammed the front edge of my folded elbow into his nose. I heard the crunch as it broke, and the momentum of the blow knocked him off his feet again. I quickly stepped back out of his reach. You broke my nose, he screamed, enraged. Keep trying to get up and force me to do anything, and that's not all I'll break. He floundered on the ground a moment. He tried to reach me, to grab my leg or kick me and knock me to the ground beside him. You little bitch. My name's Nickie, and you'd best remember that I don't take orders. Just wait till the Aniquitos gets a hold of you. I'm not worried about Bill, I said calmly. He doesn't give me orders. He knows he doesn't have to. He stilled, looking up at me. Who are you, to call our Aniquitos by his given name? His voice full of derision. I smiled. I knew it wasn't a friendly smile. Someone who has permission. I turned and went into the clinic, leaving him sprawled on the ground, blood covering his face. Though it looked like his nose had already stopped bleeding. You better have that set, I called over my shoulder. Or it'll heal crooked. Inside the clinic, I found Alexis easily. She was treating a woman who had what appeared to be a broken arm. Caden, Alexis's enforcer, stood outside the exam room as if he expected trouble. Hey Caden. I greeted. You know there's some thug lurking around outside? Yeah, I made him stay out there while Alexis treated her. He nodded toward the exam room. He was being an ass, and I didn't want him around. After what he tried on me, I don't blame you. What did he try on you? Caden asked, bristling. Oh, he thought he was dominant to me. He tried to bully me into doing whatever he wanted. I said dismissively. I take it that didn't work out for him? Not nearly as well as he'd hoped. I grinned, this time the smile reached my eyes. Either he'll be in soon to have his nose set, or he'll have a crooked nose from now on. Caden grinned, enjoying the idea. He tried to order you around so you broke his nose? No, he tried to order me around so I knocked him on his ass. I didn't break his nose until he tried to make me pay for knocking him down. And how did he respond to that? I rolled my eyes. He threatened me with Bill. He basically said I'll have to follow the Anikido's orders. Kinda shocked him when I told him I'm not worried about Bill and that Bill doesn't order me around. Then I left him lying in the grass, covered in his own blood. Caden shook his head, still grinning. You sure know how to make an impression, don't you? His fault. I would have left him alone if he'd left me alone. I didn't pick the fight, I just ended it. Sounds like you did. He chuckled. Is she gonna be a while? I asked, changing the subject. Probably. She's trying to get the woman to tell her what really happened. She says she tripped and fell down the stairs, but given what brought her in, he nodded in the direction of the man I'd left outside. I suspect something less innocent. You think he did it? I made it a question. I suspect it, but I have no proof. Unless she admits it, there's nothing we can do. I shook my head. I guess even shapeshifters can't avoid human nature. Nope. All right. I sighed, realizing I didn't have time to wait for her to get done. Will you let her know I came by? Do you really think I wouldn't? You taking out that asshole is going to be too good not to tell. I laughed. I'm sure, tell her I'll call her later then. I turned and left. I watched as I walked across the yard and out the gate, but there was no sign of the man I'd encountered earlier. I was careful getting into my car and leaving, in case he'd decided to attack me there and get even for what I'd done. But nothing happened. Maybe he'd decided I wasn't worth the trouble, but I wasn't counting on it. I thought it was more likely that he'd try to take me by surprise to get the best of me. For lunch on Monday, I called in an order for my boss and myself to a local restaurant. When I left the office to pick it up, I felt someone watching me. I looked around, scanning the area for unfamiliar faces or anything out of place, but I couldn't find anyone who appeared to be watching me. I couldn't pick up any out-of-place scents either, but I couldn't shake the sensation. I was relieved when I got back inside the office, where I didn't feel like I had someone breathing down my neck. That afternoon, when I got off, I watched for anyone unusual or off on my way out to my car, but I didn't see anything. I thought about it a moment and realized that the sensation of being watched was gone too. I didn't notice the note until I'd gotten in the car and looked up as I prepared to thumb the ignition. There was a long, narrow envelope tucked under the wiper blade, right in front of the steering wheel. I looked around again before getting out of the car. I retrieved the envelope, but I didn't take the time to open it right away. Suspicious that I might be being watched, I quickly got back in, dropped the envelope into my purse, left the parking lot. It wasn't until I was almost to the stairs leading up to my apartment that it occurred to me to get Devon's opinion. Turning on my heel, I walked across the courtyard to his place. Devon answered my knock and smiled when he saw me. What a wonderful thing to find standing on my doorstep. I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Thanks, I gave him a quick kiss as I passed him. But something's up. Is something wrong? I'm not sure if wrong is the word, but it's not right either. I recounted what had happened at lunchtime, not seeing someone but somehow sensing them. There probably was someone there. Your enhanced senses know when something's off, even if you don't yet know how to interpret what they're telling you. I nodded, continuing. And then, when I got out for the day, I found this on my windshield. I pulled the envelope from my purse and laid it on the back of the sofa next to where we stood. He glanced down at the envelope before looking back up at me. What's in it? I don't know. I didn't think I was being watched, but I didn't want to open it there, just in case. On my way home, it occurred to me to see what you think, before I opened it. He looked down at the envelope thoughtfully. How much have you handled it? Just to take it off the window and dropped it into my purse, then to pull it out just now. Both times I only used 2 fingers and only on the corners. Have you tried to pick up the scent of whoever left it? I blinked at him, stunned it hadn't occurred to me. That would be why I came to you, because sometimes even the most basic things don't occur to me. You're still learning to be kindred. It will take you a while to learn to go straight to senses you're not used to relying on. If you say so. I looked back at the envelope lying between us. How should I go about this? Pick it up by the corner like you did before and smell it. See what you can pick up. I carefully picked up the envelope by the corner and lifted. I carefully sniffed the paper, looking for anything familiar. I can smell pack, but nothing else I recognize. How about you? I held out the envelope for him to scent. He leaned close, inhaling softly. I get pack and a personal scent, but it's not one I recognize. I don't smell anything dangerous. He lifted his head again. So why don't we open it? I flipped the envelope and saw it wasn't sealed. The flap had been tucked inside the envelope instead. Guess there won't be any DNA there. I pulled out the flap and then removed the single sheet of paper inside. Before unfolding the page, I lifted it to my nose. Looking up at Devon, I shook my head, letting him know there was nothing new there. I carefully unfolded the page to reveal the contents. Stay away from the imposter was handwritten in large block letters. Devon read the note. Imposter? I take it that's me? That would be my guess. I rolled my eyes as I refolded the paper and put it back into the envelope, not bothering to tuck the flap back inside before dropping it back in my purse. That was far less alarming than I anticipated. Between the language and the handwriting, I think I know where it came from. Do I need to ask? Probably not. Imposter is what Brandon called you the other day by the pool, and it's his handwriting. Though I don't think it was him watching me today, but since I couldn't spot anyone, I can't be sure. He probably had one of his friends watch you and leave the note while he was somewhere else, with plenty of witnesses. Remember, the Aniquitos has told him to leave you alone twice now. Getting someone else to do his dirty work could be his way of getting around that. You're probably right. I nodded. I don't want to talk about him or even think about him anymore, at least not tonight. I took a deep breath and let it out. Want to go out? What do you have in mind? He asked. I don't care, something nice. I'd love to go dancing, but I don't want to stay out that late, plus I'm pretty sure I can't take music that loud. The last time I tried, I ended up with a killer headache. I bet, especially if it was after your first shift. He chuckled. The day after. I admitted. You're crazy and damned lucky you didn't hurt yourself worse than a headache. He shook his head in disbelief. What is it about going dancing that you miss? He wanted to know. I tilted my head to one side and rolled my eyes to the ceiling while I thought for a moment. Dressing up, feeling sexy, and cutting loose. Feeling the music and moving with it without worrying how I look doing so. So, how about you go get dressed and I take you out, then we can come back here and dance. While you change, I'll push everything out of the way so there's plenty of room. I was intrigued. Dinner out, then coming back here and dancing with you, and not having to worry about taking things too far in public? I leered playfully. Sounds outstanding to me. He looked at the watch on his wrist. It's almost 6 now, he looked back up at me. Can you be ready to go by 7? It'll be close, but if I hurry, I can. Then I suggest you go, you're wasting time standing here. Thanks. I stretched up and kissed him on the cheek before I turned and left, heading to my apartment to get ready.